Welcome to Healthy Life. In for Dr. Timothy Johnson, I'm Dr. Jacques Moritz. According to a new review, chondroitin, a popular dietary supplement purported to improve joint health, has no benefit in people with osteoarthritis. Joining us for insight is Dr. David Felsen. He's professor of medicine at Boston University School of Medicine. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, I think we should first say that this is for osteoarthritis and not rheumatoid arthritis. Maybe you can help us get that settled and explain the differences.
Well, osteoarthritis is the more common illness. It's a disease of wear and tear of joints that affects older people. Rheumatoid arthritis is a much less common disorder that is a systemic disorder. It affects a lot of joints throughout the body, and it's driven by inflammation throughout the body and not so much by wear and tear.
Great. So
to be honest, chondroitin, sorry to interrupt you, chondroitin has been advocated a little bit for both, although it's been sold more for osteoarthritis.
And the idea is that chondroitin is very similar to the material that's in the joints, and when you take it, it gets absorbed, and somehow or another it could either decrease pain, decrease inflammation, and maybe help remodel the joint. What did this study show?
Well, this study shows that it doesn't affect pain at all. And even the mechanism of action that you've described has never been very clear. So we've been a little bewildered as to how it might work. There's no reason to think that a molecule or substance that's part of cartilage would necessarily get incorporated into cartilage when you ingest it. So that's always been a mystery to us. But this study suggests that it doesn't affect pain.
But the problem I think that viewers have with medical news in general is that I can remember about 6 or 8 months ago where this same chondroitin was shown to be effective and have some relief, and now we come the next day and say that it doesn't work. We could come the day after, and it's very confusing to viewers and patients and people with this on whether to take it or not. Tell me what you're telling your patients.
Well, I'm telling my patients that it doesn't work. This is a review, quantitative and systematic and very comprehensive review of a lot of studies on chondroitin that selected those that were most persuasive and compelling out of a lot of literature that has really, as you suggested, varied tremendously, from studies that suggested no efficacy at all to studies that said this stuff was better than a knee replacement or a hip replacement, evidence of efficacy that was frankly not credible. And this particular study really did a lovely job of summarizing the most persuasive and compelling evidence, and it came to the conclusion that there was no evidence for efficacy. And I think that is, right now, the most persuasive information.
Now, one point of criticism I can hear the people in health food stores and people taking this is that this looked at just one component, and usually this is taken with glucosamine, and those studies weren't looked at. So I can see that now we're going to have another study saying, well, we're going to take a look at chondroitin and glucosamine and the effects of the two, and maybe they weren't looking at the right studies. What do you think about that?
Well, you're absolutely right. In the United States, it's very, very hard for people to get chondroitin alone. It comes packaged in a combination pill with glucosamine, and so people could say, well, the chondroitin part doesn't work, I'm still going to take the glucosamine part, and that has its own controversies. You're right on target there. The most common version of glucosamine that's sold in the United States is glucosamine hydrochloride. And that version has also been found in a number of studies now to not have any efficacy. So what I'm telling my patients is to avoid even that combination, that it doesn't really promise them any efficacy. I think the jury is still a bit out on the glucosamine sulfate version of this combination, or glucosamine sulfate alone, although to be honest, my view and reading of the literature is the predominant evidence even for that is that it does not work.
Well, outside of the anti-inflammatories, which have their own set of side effects, what do you recommend patients in terms of patients that are looking for a natural way to decrease the inflammation and the pain in their joints? What else can they take?
It's a terrific question, because one of the reasons that glucosamine and chondroitin have been so popular is that they've, I think, correctly been sold as relatively safe, and there's such a great need for effective pain relievers in this frustrating illness, this illness that's sometimes frustrating. I think the news is that that we have to go back to things like exercise, to the point where exercise doesn't hurt the joint, use some bracing, and for those who are overweight, try to lose a little bit of weight so that they put less loading across the knees and the hips when they walk.
And then let's talk about regulation. This industry that sells these combination of the drugs is a $1 billion industry. The FDA is not going to require labels on this saying that this medicine doesn't work, don't waste your money. The regulations on this are very, very weak and loose. Who regulates this?
Well, it's regulated only for safety concerns. That's because it's a nutritional product and not a drug. So I don't think that's going to change very much. I think the FDA may step in if the claims that the glucosamine and chondroitin makers put forward suggest in their advertising that it's actually effective for pain. Then I think the FDA would step in and say, you're trying to sell this as a drug, which it's not, and we'll try to regulate you and keep you from doing that. But otherwise, you're right. There's no regulation, as this is just a food and nutritional product.
And to end this on a positive note, the one positive note of this study, I guess you would agree, is that there didn't seem to be any side effects or any danger in the patients that want to keep on taking it. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I'll tell you an irony of this, and that the study suggests that both chondroitin and glucosamine are quite safe in many studies. That's been the one consistent finding. So that I have patients who are on the combination pill, and despite the evidence against the efficacy of the combination, they swear to me that the combination works for them. I don't try to discourage their continued use of this because it doesn't seem like it's causing them or likely to cause them any problems.
Great.
So for those who swear by it, I would say to you, stick with it. It's fine. It's not going to hurt you, I don't think. And even though the evidence suggests it probably doesn't help, there's always the possibility that for an unusual person there may be some benefit.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Felsen.
You're welcome.